Because remember, Johnny said he liked to get slapped on the booty every now and then. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Apparently Ashley. Today we're talking about Married at First Sight, Season 13, Episode 3. So in this week's episode, we saw the remaining two couples get married. So we saw Brett and Ryan get married and Rachel and Jose. And then we saw all the couples do those traditional wedding things like their first dance, they met their friends and family members, and I'm just gonna give my reaction to all the things that we saw. So before we get started, you already know I have a question for you. Are you subscribed? If not, go ahead and hit that button below, and while you're there, give me a thumbs up. Oh, another thing, y'all, I'm feeling myself today. My hair looks so good, so y'all gonna get these shakes today. Okay, let's get started. Let's start where we left off last week with Brett and Ryan's wedding. They meet at the altar. Let me tell y'all, Ryan gives off permanent hangover vibes to me. Like the way he just like moves is just very like, I'm still tipsy from last night. Like, I don't know. It's just very, very like fluid movements that like gives off that I'm not in control of my body. I don't know. It was weird. And both of them at the altar was just like very distracting. Like I felt like it was a lot of fidgeting. He was doing a lot of moving, she was doing a lot of like hand stuff, and I was just like, what is going on with y'all? It was just weird. So after they exchanged vows, all that kind of stuff, they were chit-chatting with each other, and I think they ended up admitting to each other that they weren't each other's types. But before that happened, she had asked his friends, am I his type? And I was like, no girl, don't do that. Like, ladies, I'm gonna tell y'all something. Come here. Do not ask questions that you don't want to know the answer to. Granted, Brett handled it really well. Like she was just like, oh, you know, like he's not really my type either. That's fine, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like a lot of the times we ask questions like that, the answer can be like jarring for us because like, if we're like,
oh, okay, like, am I your type? No, not really. Okay, what is your type? Okay, well, I don't fit into that type, so like, do you even like me?
And now it's this whole like rigmarole thing, and like your mind is spinning, all these questions going through your head, and it's just creating all these like insecurities that could have just been prevented if we didn't ask that question. You know what I'm saying? So like in my experience, we be nosy. You know what I'm saying? Like we be wanting to know stuff about their past, but it's like we have to ask ourselves, do I really need to know this, or am I just like being nosy? And so like when I want to ask that stuff, I'm just like, girl, this is not about to be productive. This is not relevant. It's not gonna help this relationship at all. So don't ask that question that you're thinking about. Just file it away. It's fine. Ladies, comment below. Do you have any experience with asking a question to a guy, and in hindsight or even in that moment, did you know that I shouldn't have asked that, or like I wasn't prepared for that answer? And if I got any fellas watching, hey, how do you feel when your girl asks a question that you know she's not ready to hear the answer to? Let me know. After that whole conversation, he was talking to her friends saying like, oh, I really like her red hair, because he was saying like, if you're a redhead, either you rock it or you don't rock it. Hey, they were like, oh, like, yeah, like she's not a natural redhead, but yeah, she looks good in it. And like they told Brett, and Brett enjoyed hearing that or whatever. Nothing else really happened with them. So all right, let's move on to Rachel and Jose. Jose is so insecure, and I want to talk to him and find out who hurt him, because he was just putting all his flaws on Front Street, and he was just like, I mean, I know I got a big nose, and I know my forehead's big, and I'm under 6 feet. And I was just like, why are you just talking about all this? Let this woman decide if she's gonna like you or not. However, what she said to him probably did not help his confidence, because they, you know what, bloop, let me go back to when they were at the altar and then I'll get there. So before they meet each other at the altar, I was feeling like Rachel was really a not confident person, but the more the episode was going on, her personality was coming out, and I was like, she's so cute. Like she made this selfie video to Jose that was like, hey hubby, like I'm so ready to be your wife, and like I hope you don't get cold feet because I'm so committed to this. And I was like, oh, so adorable. And even at the altar, like her personality was just coming out, like she was all giggly and giddy and stuff, and it was just cute. Like she was really trying to make him feel comfortable, because at the altar he was stiff. Like this man wasn't talking, he wasn't moving. It was just, look at that, he looked stiff. After the altar, the vows, all that stuff, they were chit-chatting and they played this cute little game where it was like, okay, I'm gonna say something about myself, and then we like cheers our glasses if we both have that in common. And so it was like, oh, I'm born and raised in Houston. Oh, me too. Oh, I love to work out. Oh, me too. So it was like super cute because it was like seeing how they have stuff in common. Jose was talking about how like, oh, like you're exactly what I wanted. Like the experts matched me up perfectly. What she said next was a game changer, because she was like, you're exactly what I wanted too. Like I told the experts that looks don't matter and I just wanted someone with a good personality, and here you are. And I was like, you basically told that man, it's okay, you look like a troll. As long as you open my doors, then we're good. Like, what? What? It was crazy. His whole, like, he was already awkward before that, but like his demeanor definitely changed after that. Like they were taking pictures and stuff. You could just tell that he looked uncomfortable. There's one picture in particular, this one, that he just looks like a child, like trying to just wrap his arms around his mother, and it was just awkward, y'all. He did loosen up eventually though, like when they were in the hotel room at night, like he was saying, oh, I'm gonna do this Chippendales thing for you, like I still got my bow tie on, all this stuff. And so he was loosening up, and I think she likes him. I mean, clearly she just wants a personality. She said your face can look what it looks like, and I don't care about that, but I think they'll be fine. All right, let's go to Myrla and Gil. So Myrla and Gil were sitting there eating their first dinner, right? And Myrla asked him what his last name is, and it's Puero. I want to make sure I said that right. He was like, what's your last name, or like your maiden name, because now your last name is about to be my last name essentially. And she told him her last name, I don't remember what it was. She was like, you know, since we're talking about this, what are your expectations on me changing my last name? And he was like, I think you should change it. She was talking in her confessional and she was just like, like clearly my husband's really traditional when it comes to changing the last name, but I want to keep my name because it's connected to my father and my father passed away. Makes sense, but it had me thinking like, this is definitely an important conversation that needs to be had. Obviously they can't have it because they're stranger spouses, but like, if you're not a stranger spouse, having that conversation before getting married, because I know conversations I've had with guys in the past, they're like, I'm standing 10 toes down on you are changing your last name to mine. I know a lot of women feel like, you know, that's the patriarchy and like that's this sense of ownership, like I want to keep my name. And I also know women who are like, kind of like Myrla, where they're like, oh, well, this last name is connected to my dad or my grandfather, and so I want to keep this name. Definitely something that should be talked about so that everyone's on the same page going into this marriage. But I also know like another layer of that is like, okay, if the woman wants to keep her last name, how does she feel when kids come into the picture? Like, does she want the kids to have her last name as well? Or is she okay with them having the man's last name? Because I also know men could be like, okay, you can keep your last name, but like my children are for sure having my last name, because I know this like legacy and all this kind of stuff. For me personally, I'm not connected to my last name. I just always knew and assumed that like I was going to change my last name when I got married, so it's not really something I've thought about, honestly. Well, thought about in the opposite way. Like I just knew it was going to happen. My main concern was more so I want a name that just flows well with my first name, and in my current relationship doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, but nevertheless. Comment below, like, what are your stances on changing your last name? Like, if ladies are watching this and you're married, like, did you change your last name? Did you talk about this beforehand? Did you hyphenate your name? And again, fellas who are watching this, hey, how would you feel if you were dating a woman who didn't want to change her last name? How do you feel about the hyphen? Is this a deal breaker? Like we talked about this in the first episode. Is this something where you're like, I don't want to marry this person because they don't want my name? Let me know. After that, they met each other's friends and family. The topic kept coming up about how Myrla is high maintenance. And she, again, y'all, it is not what she is saying, because she has valid points. It's just literally how she says it. She is so off-putting and just comes off so diva-ish. How could you think differently than me? Like, I just don't like the energy that she gives off. And you can tell his friends don't really like her. She's just kind of like, this is my lifestyle. I'm like, why should I have to change it? I work hard. Like, I'm going to spend my money. And it's just like, Like the energy I'm giving saying that don't feel good, right? She could say what she's saying in a different way and get the message delivered better. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely going to be a topic that keeps coming up with them. Like that's going to be a point of contention for sure. All right, let's talk about Bao and Johnny. So they were sitting at their table. Johnny was talking about how he's super affectionate, how physical touch is like his top love language or one of his top. It's up there. Bao was basically like, no, like that's last for me. Like I do not enjoy touching like that. It had me thinking about the love language test, where it's basically 5 love languages: words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, physical touch, and quality time. So you take this test, at the end you get those 5 things ranked in order, number 1 love language to number 5. There's a book associated with this, and so if you read the book, it talks about how when your partner speaks your love language, they're filling your love tank. Just because one of those languages is your number 1 language, it doesn't mean those other languages don't matter. It's just they don't hold as much weight as like the ones higher up top. You know what I'm saying? I say that to say that like just because Bao's love language of physical touch is at the bottom, I don't think that's necessarily a red flag, because I'm sure there's couples all the time who like have inverse love languages. But I think that's where the work of the relationship comes in, because you know everyone says like a relationship is work, it's work. This is one of those examples of now these partners have to work to speak their partner's love language, especially if it's at the bottom. Oh my gosh, I have the perfect analogy. Okay, so y'all know meters on the street. You're parallel parking like usually in like downtown, and you put the coins in the meter. A quarter is, I don't know, let's say a quarter is 10 minutes and a dime is 7 minutes and a nickel is 5 minutes and a penny is 3 minutes, right? Like all of those coins matter, but the quarter matters the most because you get the most time. So that's basically how the love languages are. My love language is words of affirmation, and I think bottom for me is physical touch, like Bao. And so it's like, yes, physical touch matters to me. That's the penny of my love languages. But if you want to get that quarter energy from me and fill me up like that, I need the words of affirmation. Wow, kudos to me. That was a great analogy. I say all that to say that that's not a red flag. Like I think they'll be fine, but she just has to be intentional and like still speaking his love language to make him feel loved and cared for. Because remember, Johnny said he liked to get slapped on the booty every now and then. Comment below if you want me to make a video about love languages, and also let me know what your love language is, because I love tests like that. They're so important to relationships because you obviously want your partner to feel loved. Let me know if y'all want to see a video. All right, last, let's talk about Michaela and Zack. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Didn't much really happen with them in the episode, but if y'all saw the previews for next week, Michaela was acting up. I don't know if y'all remember. Her sisters were calling her Hurricane K, saying that she can just have an attitude and she just goes off at the mouth at these guys, and then she'll like 2 seconds later apologize or whatever. And she was just like, well, if my husband is the man for me, then he'll know how to handle it, right? In those previews, y'all, she was cussing at that man. She was being so dramatic. She like got up and left from wherever they were, but it was in a very dramatic way. And then at one point she was being held back from a producer and like slamming doors and stuff, and I was like, what is happening? Zack looks like the type of individual who doesn't know how to handle conflict. He looks very conflict avoidant. He looks like he shuts down. And so I am positive he does not know what to do with how Michaela is acting. I mean, granted, I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't, because the way she was acting was ridiculous. I can just tell like that's not going to sit well with him. I'm not a conflict avoidant person. Like I don't go searching for conflict, but I do like embrace it because I just know it's a part of relationships. And so like healthy arguing is a thing. However, one thing you're not gonna see me do is cause a scene in public. That's exactly what she was doing. I will sit up in people's faces and we can kiki and smile it up or whatever, but as soon as we get back in this car, we're gonna pick up right where we left off in this conversation, because we're gonna finish this. So just her acting like that in public, and then she's on TV, and I'm just like, girl, why are you acting like this on TV? What are you doing? It was a lot. All right, y'all, that wraps up my review of this week's episode. They didn't show a sneak peek for next week, but instead they just showed a sneak peek of like the entire season. And so I already told y'all about Michaela and Zack, and the other couples are gonna have their riffs and stuff as well. Gil and Myrla are talking about how she's high maintenance. It seems like Brett thinks that Ryan doesn't like her. Bao is shown crying, saying like something's really heartbreaking. Rachel was shown saying like, I can't be your wife. And so I'm sure a lot of that is like editing magic, except Michaela. I don't know what that was, but we'll get the context for all of that as the season goes on. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and click that button below. Also share this video with other people who watch the show, or if they don't watch the show, just so they can hear my opinions on all this stuff happening. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.